This is my video, homie. I couldn't resist starting out the video like that. Welcome to this video, ladies and gentlemen. This is something I've been wanting to do for a little while. It's something I've talked about a lot in my live streams, and, you know, I've mentioned a bit in passing in other videos, but I wanted to touch upon this character, and that's Shawn, and how he's completely misunderstood, and everyone just kind of classifies him as a thug. And I'm going to be honest, I think the reason why people classify him as a thug is because this is the stereotypical thug behavior, is being a brute, being a grunt, asserting dominance, pushing people around, and all that kind of stuff. Luckily, you guys have got me. Now, I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm just saying, when Shawn's brought into the show in Season 5, and then, you know, they're like, oh my god, you know, his character's actually incredibly layered. And then they're like, Jacob was right. I'm like, hey man, that's what I do, you know, that's what I'm here for. But anyway, aside from my ego, talking about Shawn specifically, I want to go straight back to our first introduction to Shawn. And he walks in and goes, Angel, my sweet, sweet angel, you know, and he's, you know, tantalizing and aggravating his fellow juvie mate. I stand by this. As much as it might have been a statement to Angel, I think it was more of a statement to Robbie. I think Robbie entered juvie, people knew of him, they knew of the school situation because it was all over the news, and Shawn, being, for all intents and purposes, the big bad of juvie, knows what kind of caliber has now entered his ring. And even if they didn't know who Robbie was before he entered juvie, that's still new blood. You're not too sure who's just entered, because that person who's just entered can topple you off of your throne. So, I want to break it down a little bit more. Juvie is not some Sunday daycare centre where everyone's running through the meadow and, you know, picking daisies and smacking each other with towels and everyone's having a good time and shooting water pistols at each other. It's not that environment at all. It's an environment that is dog eat dog. And that is why Cobra Kai's teachings thrived for Robbie in Cobra, you know, while he was in juvie against Shawn, because that's the environment that Cobra Kai is best suited for, is a situation and an environment where you have no choice but to strike first, because if you don't, someone else will. And in this case, that is exactly what Shawn did. Shawn struck first, immediately, with a test. Him slamming Angel's head down on the table was not necessarily against Angel, it was against Robbie. It was a test to Robbie, because the minute he slams Angel's head down on the table, he looks straight at Robbie. Straight at Robbie. He eye to eye. Straight at Robbie. As soon as Robbie stands up, he's like, what are you looking at, newbie? And the security guard comes in, Robbie goes to answer the phone. We know how that goes. Now, the second test was when Robbie's, you know, thing was on the news, and then there was that fundraiser that Sam and all the others were doing for Miguel, and, you know, Robbie looked on, you know, kind of in this, you know, a bit of sadness, like, you know, obviously it was an accident, I didn't mean to kick him over, you know what I'm saying, I've touched upon that a million times. And then Shawn walks over, antagonizing him, you know, saying, hey, you know, looks like, you know, vanilla ain't her flavor no more, you know, she's got a taste for horchata. Maybe she should be drinking that dark roast next. Like, he's tantalizing him. He's angry. He's really pushing at those buttons. And in his eyes, Robbie fails the test again. Because not only does Robbie challenge him, he squares up to him, eye to eye, as we know Robbie to do. And then, in that moment, Shawn's strength is being tested. If Shawn walks away in any capacity, he will be in question, and someone else in juvie could take his spot. As I've said, it's not a daycare centre. It's juvie. Different rules, different circumstances. And I'm not talking about this as if I've ever been in it, but I know of stories and I know of people who have been in that environment, and they'll tell you what it's like. It's not a situation, and this is where Cobra Kai is great, because that is a very true depiction of what it's like in a lot of those situations. It's not just you walk into juvie and then someone slams a head down and a fight starts, but there is a test of strength. There is a test of the freshman. Whoever's new that walks into that environment will be tested to see what kind of person they are. And more often than not, Shawn has this buzz about him where most people are in that juvie setting are either cool with him, they're with him, or they just avoid him. Robbie doesn't fall into either of those categories. If anything, he provokes all three. And then Shawn lays a smackdown on his ass. And I'm saying, like, he throws Robbie around Juvie like he's a ragdoll. Now, in Robbie's defense, it's 1 on 4, 3, however many. You're not going to win. You just can't. And it's a different kind of environment. And up until that point, Robbie wasn't experienced in group fights. And the reason why Robbie was able to take the whole dojo down in the Season 4 premiere was simply because he had a real-world fight. You can have all the training in the world, but if you have a real-world fight trumps anything. Because there is no rules, there is no restrictions, there is no regulations. All bets are off. Anything goes. Robbie was slammed into a locker, thrown over a table, punched in the face several times, and then basically grappled WWE style by like 3 people. Shawn puts another test to him by saying, this is just a warm-up, we're not finished with you yet. Punches him right in the gut, buggers off. And this is where I wanted more of these Juvie scenes, because I really enjoyed that aspect about Season 3. And it was nice to sort of see Robbie really grow from, you know, where he was to where he is now in that transition. But another test was when Robbie was sat on the computer and Shawn unplugged the thing. And this time, Robbie, being smart, fighting smart, didn't look at him. Or he looked at him, but he didn't say anything. He just looked at him and walked away, planning his next move. And that was another one of Shawn's tests. And then obviously we know what happened after that. Big fight ensued. And then we get to my favourite part. One of my favourite parts in the whole show is a mutual respect that is formed between Robbie and Shawn. Where it's like, you know, why didn't you talk? I'm no snitch. Me neither. Like, it's a respect that's formed by beating the crap out of each other. And in that moment, they both know where they stand with each other. Now, obviously, there's a time skip. We don't know what happens then. And then you cut to Season 4 and Kenny's having trouble in school. Who's the one person that can give him some advice? His older brother. And without any question, Shawn says, karate, yeah? Has a laugh on his face. He's like, don't worry, I know a guy who can help. And he recommends him to Robbie. Now, this is why I have said, and I stand by this, even though Shawn may join Cobra Kai for a brief time, I don't think he's destined to stay in there longer than Season 5. Because, in my opinion, I don't want that bond that him and Robbie forged to be undone. Especially now that Kenny is involved. And I think a video that I did regarding Kenny and Shawn talking about this is Shawn has always been the brute. He's always been the grunt. Kenny has always been the sweet boy that wouldn't hurt a soul. How would Shawn, like, I mean, if you have any siblings or younger sibling, you know, figures in your life, or younger, you know, apprentices or whatever, how would you feel if someone that you took under your wing, or someone that you wanted the best of, became an evil little monster? Shawn is going to look at Kenny and say, what on earth happened to you? This is too much for even me. And I think Shawn will see right through what Silver is on, and I don't see him staying any longer than Season 5. And I can honestly see him going where Robbie goes, because Kenny is now involved. And there's a great bit of story detail that everyone's kind of overlooked. When Robbie goes to give the backpack back to Kenny, Kenny says, Shawn had some bad friends, right? And this will give Kenny the perspective of the friends that Anthony has. See? You see how it goes hand in hand? Shawn was defending Kenny. He was defending Kenny in that moment, and it was literally defending his brother ended him up in juvie because he beat the guy pretty bad. When everyone assumed that he was just a thug. And that is the problem. That is exactly the problem. Everyone just assumes he's a thug, then that little nugget of information tells you all you need to know about Shawn. Yeah, he's a bit of a brute, you know, he's a bit of a dominating kind of guy, but you have to understand, in juvie, it's not like the rules of a daycare center. It's different rules, different environment. And the bad friends that Shawn was hanging around have clearly influenced him. So there you go, is another example of you are the 5 people, or whatever that motto is, that you are the people that you spend most of your time around. And Shawn could have fell victim to peer pressure. The same way Anthony LaRusso fell victim to peer pressure with those so-called friends of his. And that could help Kenny and Shawn in later seasons. But I wanted to do this video just to touch upon this a bit more, because I've seen this going around. It's like, oh yeah, Shawn's a brute. He would be perfect for Cobra Kai. Physically, Shawn is perfect for Cobra Kai. Perfect fit. He's got the perfect kind of charisma. He's got the strength, the size. He's a brute. But they put that story detail there for a reason. I don't see Shawn staying on the bad side, quote unquote, for longer than a season. Now, I got a video talking about One United Dojo, and that will be coming after this one. But I wanted to talk about this a little bit more because this is something that I see quite a lot, about how people get classed and labelled as thugs or whatever, when this show has shown us time and time again, people like Shawn have been sort of backed into a corner to where they have no choice but to do it. What was the alternative? Let his brother get beaten up? Who's going to stand there and let that happen? No one, you know. And then in Juvie, again, different rules, different scenario. Dad's not around. We don't know where the mum is. You know, it's all these kind of little things that are building up. And one thing that Cobra Kai can teach you, or Karate Kid, you know, this goes right back to the original, again, it's in the original trilogy, is no one is ever truly beyond redemption. And I know that phrase has been kind of turned as, oh, people turn on the quote-unquote good side. That means they've redeemed. Well, no. That's the start of their redemption. Their true redemption begins after that moment, i.e. with Hawk, now with Robbie. Like, it's a continuous thing. And in my opinion, Shawn doesn't really need to redeem, even if he stays with Cobra Kai, because he hasn't really done anything. In terms of story's sake, he hasn't really done anything that's bad, and Robbie already dealt with him. So it would just be, he would be an asset to wherever he goes. Think of it like in Sonic, right? It may be because I want to go and see it, but Sonic is, you know, the bundle of joy, and Knuckles is the powerhouse. He's the muscle. You know, they work hand in hand. They bounce off each other. Does that mean Knuckles is an evil guy? No. You know, it's different context, different scenario. But guys and girls, jump in the comment section down below. I'm very interested to hear what you guys have to say. This is, again, one thing I love about this show, is it opens up these kind of conversations that can be applied to the real world. And again, I don't think I've seen a show or medium do it this well, to where even a character like Shawn, who barely has a lot of screen time, where we can actually talk and have conversations about kids who end up in Shawn's position, you know, or Kenny's position because of their brother being in Shawn's position. You know, all these little bits of connective tissue. Jump in the comment section down below, and, you know, I mean, I know you guys like me to end on taglines, so just comment a few taglines down in the comment section below that you'd like me to end on, you know, for new videos. But with it being a Shawn one, I mean, come on, there's only one. That's my table, homie!